So if you're alive in 2019, which if you're watching this video, probably are or were alive in 2019 because that'd be pretty weird if you weren't, then you definitely know about Netflix. Now, I'm not going to talk about my favorite Netflix shows today, although I love The Society and Ozarks. I love Ozarks. If you haven't watched it, go check that out. It's awesome. But I am going to be talking about how the Netflix shows and movies that tens of millions and I think hundreds of millions of people consume around the world have direct impact on the book industry and the way that stories are told. So first off, this isn't necessarily Netflix doing this, but Netflix certainly isn't stopping this, is the push towards edgier content. Now, I can't tell exactly where this came from, but most people agree that it's a direct result of the internet just allowing more people and more voices to be really accepted and allowed to talk into the mainstream. And that allows some voices that we consider to be maybe more towards the edge of acceptable and appropriate content to really just be accepted and out in the open. And we see a lot of movies on Netflix and a lot of TV shows that include a lot of cursing, violence, and some other things under the covers that maybe wouldn't be considered acceptable 20 or 30 years ago, but today are geared for teen audience. And I think this is now definitely true in books. We've seen over the last 7 years with the rise of Netflix, books like Divergent, Hunger Games, that controversially are directed towards middle schoolers that have a lot of cursing and more mature themes that you wouldn't normally have seen. But this is the new world we live in, and although you don't have to create content like this, in fact, there's a huge opportunities to create content that is more clean. It is good to know that this is the trend of where things are moving. And as teens ourselves become a little bit edgy, hashtag Gen Z. I'm Gen Z, but yeah, that was stupid. Sometimes I question myself when I talk to this camera low in my room. But anyways, as teens get more edgy, I guess our content does too. That was a bad joke. That's supposed to be a joke. Imagine that. That was poor. That was horrible. So anyways, now another thing that Netflix has done is that people don't really care where they watch things anymore, where they come from. I mean, with Netflix, this is pretty obvious. We literally watch Netflix in our cars. A new movie comes out and we're not going to the theaters, we're rushing to our couch. It's a whole new culture. And we're also not really worried about what studios these movies come from or what production companies are doing. It's just, oh, it's on Netflix. Cool. I'll watch it. And that's awesome. That's literally like democratizing content and how stories are told. And the same thing has happened with books. No longer are people really worrying about where they come from. And likewise, not always are people reading actual books. People are reading ebooks, people listening to audiobooks. How people consume content has changed. And just like people used to go to the movies or rent DVDs, people aren't doing that with books anymore. It's 10, 12 years ago when Netflix started to become a thing. 7 years ago, Kindle started to become a thing. And Kindle and ebooks and e-readers are a little bit later to the game than Netflix is, but it's still huge and it's impacting how stories are told because they aren't being consumed the same way, which definitely affects storytellers, albeit less than people who are producing video content, because at the end of the day, the written word is the written word, so it doesn't change too much, but it's certainly noteworthy to know how it's consumed. But next is the really big things that Netflix has done, like huge. This is how they've revolutionized how stories are told and really the expectations of readers. It used to be that once every year, we'd expect a new book to come out in a series or a new book from an author, and that was totally fine. Like, that was like what we expected. We'd be waiting the whole year for it. We'd read some books by some other authors. But Netflix kind of changed the whole thing around. Just as people used to wait a year for a new movie in a franchise, 2 years, and sometimes even way longer than that, Netflix would just release a whole season at once. No longer would you have to wait 1 week in between each television episode. They were all released right then, immediately. Netflix can release movies just constantly, like literally 3 or 4 times a year. They could release a movie in a series or franchise that they have on the platform, which has really made reader patience go down. And I know I said reader, but hear me out. No longer are people willing to wait 2 or 3 years for the continuation of a story. People are clamoring. They want more now. And it's the writers' jobs of those TV shows, it's the actors, the producers, everyone who's involved. It's their job to get it out. And as authors, it's our job to get out for books too. A very similar thing has happened in books. Authors are writing more books. They're writing books faster. And they're not waiting a year or 2 years to write the next book in the series and release it. They're releasing books sometimes once a month, sometimes even more than that. People do some really crazy things. And the fact of the matter is there's no speed that they can go at that's fast enough. Readers want more and they want it now. And Netflix has really given that instant gratification mindset a place to just fester even more. And that's kind of put more pressure on us as storytellers to write better and write faster and to really keep up with other content that is competing with us, because frankly, books compete with Netflix. And if someone can watch all their new Netflix shows for years and days, just right at their fingertips, why are they going to wait a year for your book? Likewise, one thing that Netflix really has done is binge watching. It's kind of what started that, because before it would be really hard to binge watch a TV series unless there was a marathon going on, because I mean, where would you find the same episode of a TV series sequentially ordered 10 episodes in a row? That's just impossible. And watching at a time that actually worked for your schedule. But now people can, whenever they want, if they have 6 free hours, they can choose those 6 free hours to be laying on their bed watching Netflix. And that's awesome. But every time they choose to do that, they're not choosing to read. And what really drives a lot of book sales are the power readers, the people who binge read 6 or 7 hours a day. Really, readers go through phases. A lot of people think it's a cyclical 3 years phase where people will read a lot for 3 years, then go out of a phase where they don't read for 3 years. And the habitual readers then will read again. And habitual readers will go through a cycle. And this is widely, some dispute it, some accept it. But either way, we can all agree that we've gone through phases of our life where we read a lot, and other phases of our life where we read a little bit less. And sometimes it has to do with issues in our life and just schedules getting busy. But other times that's to do because other things are interesting us during our free time. And the fact of the matter is that books compete with Netflix. And as storytellers, we have to recognize that and be able to deliver more value to our audience than Netflix can, which seems like some insurmountable challenge, but thousands of authors do it every day, and I know you can too. In fact, in my next video, I'm going to be talking about rapid release scheduling and if it's for you and how you can still deliver high quality content at a high output. And although this is a very relatively new way of writing, it's a way that I do myself, and it's something that I'm hoping I can share my struggles and the pros and cons of it with you. Maybe it's something you're interested to do, maybe not, maybe you're already doing it, but either way, this marks the end of my video talking about how Netflix has changed storytelling. I hope you have a wonderful day, and always remember that me and the team at Young Geek Writers Association are here for you. And if you want to access any of the other videos, feel free to check out the link in the description below. Happy writing!